Hey, happy Hump Day Wednesday for all of you that are tuning in and watching us. I'm kind of sad because this is the last installment for a conversation series, Widows Unveiled. That makes me sad, but that's okay because we have had a really, really good time this month. And for those of you who may not know, the reason that I had been coming to you this month during April is because it was the 7th anniversary of my husband's passing. And I thought that it would be wonderful to interview widows throughout this month. And just so that you all can really get an understanding, hear from some widows that are all in the same age range, really. And so that you can just really get an understanding of some of our stories and what has taken place. And so this person this evening is very special because I'm going to bring her to the stream while I talk about her. But she is very special because actually on my wedding day, June 2011, she dropped off my veil and my purse because our friend K Fly, y'all know I always be rocking leather earrings, which I actually don't have on tonight. You got on K Fly tonight?
I got on K Fly tonight.
Okay. I always have on K Fly, and today I don't. But K Fly made my veil, which was a nice, cute little piece that I wanted, and a purse. She made a matching purse to go with it, and some other pieces. She made a bracelet and just some other pieces for my wedding. And so Maya drops it off. K Fly's like, "Hey, I'm sending your soror to drop stuff off for you, blah, blah, blah." So Maya drops stuff off. She sees the dress. She's like, "Whoa, this dress is banging."
I never forget it. Yellow crochet. Never forget it.
I love it. It was exactly what I wanted. So I'm like, when I get married again, I'm like, dude, we just get married because I had the dress I wanted already. Like, I'm not a traditional wedding dress girl. So Maya dropped it off and we've been connected ever since. And then a couple of years ago, we had to connect on a more personal level, which we'll talk about that in a minute. So, but before we get into that, Maya, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I'm so excited to have you. So why don't
I'm excited.
I know you are. I can't wait to dive into the conversation and for us to get started. But before we do that, why don't you tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do, whatever you want to tell us.
So my name is Maya Johnson. I go by MJ now. And it's a funny story behind that because the first time I ever wrote my initials after I got married, it was MJ. And so my husband told me, look, instantly I made you like you the greatest. So that's why, I started going by MJ.
But, hilarious. That is so like, funny.
With one move, I made you look like you was the greatest.
These men.
So yeah, Sean had definitely a sense of humor that was beyond sometimes. But I like to introduce myself. I'm Maya Johnson, and I am light. That's who I am. I'm a widow mom. I'm an educator by profession. Right now, I'm in the nonprofit sector, which I love. I'm a future entrepreneur. I'm starting a business. It's not a small business, but I am starting a business, and we'll get into that when we talk about ways to honor legacy. But that's who I am. I have hobbies. During COVID, my hobby became Netflix series. But I recently, after my husband passed, and one of the first things that I started doing was sewing. I went to a sewing class, and so I have a group of women I sew with. And I'm excited because this month is supposed to be our first month back together since COVID. So that's who I am.
Very cool. Well, I am excited to hear about your hobby. I'm excited to hear about your legacy stuff. Really. Do you see this?
I see it. It's all good. That's what we do. That's what we do.
I'm like, really? Do you see this? So no, that is definitely exciting, and I can't wait to hear because I know one of those things. I know that one of those businesses. Okay, my child, peace out. We'll do a show with you. We gonna interview you, and then we gonna see if she really got all this personality when it's time for her.
She does. Trust me, she won't disappoint. The people gonna keep wanting more.
So, before we get into the specific questions, we are here because this is called a conversation series, Widows Unveiled. And so, there may be people who had no idea that you were a widow. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and how you became a widow, what age you were, and how long you were married?
So my husband's name was Sean. I was married for 10 months. We were together we were like 9.5 years into our friendship. So we were friends first, have remained friends. No, just maybe 4 years, no contact, physical contact like that, just friends. And then we started dating. We have a son together, and we got married October 27th. And 10 months later, he was gone. And so I became a widow at 38. So Sean had just turned 39. Our birthdays are 2 weeks apart. And it's crazy because when I was watching the series, a lot of the widows have a significance with their birthdays. And so Sean passed 2 days after my 38th birthday, August 4th. So I was a widow at 38. It'll be 3 years this August. And what happened was August 2nd, we celebrated my birthday. I did go to work, so I came home kind of late. And Sean was not a surprise kind of guy. Like how much money you need? He's that guy. He gonna pass you your gift in a bag from that he just got from the store. And so we actually had several arguments. Like I'm like, you don't want to celebrate, like you don't want a big shebang about your birthday. I think you all at least plan. And when I was saying you all, I was talking about my oldest son at the time, before my baby was born. I was like, at least you all plan. And so we had gone through this several years. And so this time I'm just like, he ain't gonna do nothing.
Right.
Whatever. Like we've been through this. And so I get home and he has balloons. He has cards. He always had cards, and he could pick the best cards. That was like a niche of his. He could pick the best cards. So he had cards. He had a cake. He had bought a cake from the store, and he had money in the card, like no gift, but money in the cash is king with my
cash is king. All right,
cash is king. We do everything in cash, baby. So that was a needed surprise, and I was just like, because that was the first time he had ever. Like I said, he'd give me a gift, it'd be wrapped up in he go the bag, the receipt in there if you need to take it back.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
The balloons and the cake was definitely a nice surprise. And he left out, and so that was a Thursday. He left out early Friday morning to go to the city. We stay in Indiana, and he left out early Friday morning to go to the city for a funeral. And we're talking back and forth and texting back and forth throughout the day. And I'm just kind of getting stuff done at the house. And late at night, he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to come home. So his sister called and she's like, I want to know if you have a problem with him staying here. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, he's been drinking. I really don't think he should have gone to that funeral. He's just really in a sad place. So I think he should stay here, but he keeps saying he wants to get home to you and the baby. And I said, well, yeah, don't let him drive. It's getting later and later. You got to take his keys because he gonna come home. Mm-hmm. And I knew that because of conversations we had, like by us dress transitioning to Indiana, there were options for us to stay either at our parents' house, him, his sister house, or me at my mom's house. And we had a conversation about, we're married now, so you come home. And so I knew that he would be home. And so he calls and I'm like, where you at, babe? And he was like, I'm on my way home. And I was like, oh, you could have stayed over there. Have you been drinking? The police are out. And he was like, woman, who you got at my house? Like, why you don't want me to come home?
Oh no.
And I said, okay, man, focus, get here. And I remember falling asleep. And I remember my husband coming in, and I could hear him come in, and he was making all this noise. And then he comes to snug on me like, come on, let's. And I'm like, man, you just got in. Boy, go ahead, go to sleep. And I remember my husband snoring. And that's the last thing I remember. So early Saturday morning, I jump up. We were having the carpet cleaned at our house. And so I jump up because my phone was ringing and it was in the other room. And I tell the carpet people, okay, we'll be ready when they get here. I go to wake him up. And I'm like, babe, come on, wake up. And I'm pushing him or whatever. He's not responding. And I'm like, and I'm steady talking, kind of like, babe, da, da, da. And I was like, well, if you're not going to answer, then I think I should call the paramedics. And so and you have to understand that my husband was the king of pranks. Like, he was the jokester. Women who have funny husbands know that it just becomes annoying to you. Like, you call Paul the cornball. Like, and it's like, ugh. And that's the same way. Like, I'm the king of pranks. I'm the prankster. And that was Sean. Like, he used to always do this, and he swore up and down that he invented this. Like, he was like, I invented that at Curie High School, like that made you look thing. I was like, you didn't invent that. So for him to be playing or whatever, I was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna call the paramedics. And I picked up the phone, and usually he would be like, something like that, and he didn't do it. And I dialed 911. I was like, I'm calling them, and I had it on speakerphone, and he didn't respond. And instantly my heart started racing. And so I'm trying to, grab him and pull him. I'm on the phone with 911. They're asking me, is he breathing? And I'm trying to see. And I get down to him. And what I realize is I don't know if I'm hearing his heart or mine. Wow. And so I'm just kind of like, this can't be happening. And I'm like, Sean, please, Lord, just wake him up. Just wake him up. And they get to our house. The paramedics check him. He said his pulse is really low. He puts the machines on him to kind of resuscitate him. And then the machine, they have the machine and the line was just flat. And he just kind of looks at me, and I'm like, what are you doing? Work on him. And he's just not and he said, it's too late. He's gone. And so I just remember being in shock. Like, I don't really know who I called and who called me, but I remember sitting on my porch with the paramedics while my mom and his mom came from Chicago. I remember at one point needing to hyperventilating and them needing to put a breathing machine on my mouth to just kind of get me to breathe. And I really believe that my husband died of a broken heart, especially when his sister said to me that he's really sad in terms of the funeral. We had buried our son, his biological son, we don't really use stepson, his biological son, 14 months prior. And I just think that as much as my husband joked and laughed and talked about moving on and life going on and wanting to be well, I think that his heart was just broken. And that's how I became a widow.
10 months after you got married at 38.
10 months after I got married at 38. And at that time, our son was 3.
He was 3. And how long had you and Sean been friends, though? Before we started dating, we had been friends probably about 4 years. So this is someone that I'll talk to literally every day for the last 10 years. Like,
in total, 9.5 years. And
Mhm.
that's the kind of friendship we had. Like he would date people, I would date people. They would get jealous, like she's more than just a friend, and he's more. And I was like, no, it's at that time his nickname was Burger, Cheeseburger. And I was like, that's just the bird, that's just Burger, like like it's. And so it was just, we ended up together, and then we ended up having a baby, and then we ended up getting married. And so,
Wow. Well, Maya, thank you for sharing that. 38. And that's the thing. I keep telling people, like, you were 38, I was 36. We've had, a 32-year-old. We've had a 42-year-old. Like, when you think that you have the rest of your life and you're thinking the rest of your life is like 70, 80,
yeah,
and for it to happen before you even turn 40,
yeah.
you're like, what is going on? So, with thinking about that, what I'd like to know is like, how have you been able to manage your grief to this point? What are some of the things that you've done? What has kept you?
What kept me honestly was my friends. Um, a lot of folks, I wasn't born on the pulpit. Like I'm saved, sanctified, thank God right now. But I wasn't born on the pulpit. And so I was really I was at a loss for God, because I had been serving, I had been tithing, I had been praying. And I felt like Sean and I was at our sweet spot. I felt like we had been through so much crap as a couple, and we were really starting to learn. I was starting to learn how to be a wife, how to submit, how to really make this thing good. Like I said, with him, with me not even saying nothing and thinking he wasn't going to do anything, and getting balloons and the cake for my birthday, I felt like we had been we were getting to a sweet spot, like just getting in as a power couple almost. So how I don't, and so I didn't turn to God. I didn't turn to God at first. But my friends, they connected me. We got reconnected in ways. They talked to me. I did get into counseling. I think I was in counseling maybe a week and a half after Sean had
Yes.
passed, because
Yes, that is the way.
I really did go through a thing where I thought that I would die of a broken heart. I thought that, and I would pray to God. I would be like, God, I don't want to die. Like, I want to live. Please don't take me from my son. Please don't make, because I was hurting that bad. But I did the counseling. One of the things that I got my son into counseling as well, because again, we're dealing with a 3-year-old that has lost his brother and his father.
Yeah.
In a year, and in a 14-month period.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did a lot of memory boxes that we still keep, like different things. My son had done them, and then I created one. What else did we do? We talk about him all the time. My son will talk about his dad, and he will remember stuff that I'm like, how did you even remember that? So we talk about that all the time. One of the things I did was I decided not to give up my home. So I went back and forth with just being in there, because it is further from, we're from Chicago. Family was here, and we had bought this home it was a push gift. It was my push gift, because I said in 2014, I said I didn't want to be in the city anymore. And I was like, this ain't my idea what I wanted. I wanted it fixed up already, and
Listen, you got to be
finished.
specific about your request, girl.
And so I'm like, this is a dump. Like, what we doing with this? But I decided to keep the home and pour, that love and care into it. And I'm so glad I did, because the peace that we felt out there, we still feel that peace in our home. So we did a lot of things to just kind of move through it. But counseling was the biggest thing for both me and my sons, as well as just talking to friends and family.
I love that. And and you've heard me say this for sure. I always say, like, my support system is bar none the best. And they have gotten me through. They have helped me over. They have opened their homes for meals. They have made me laugh, whatever it is. And that is, I think, just a testament to how we show up in the world, right? When we have people that show up
Yeah.
for us because, although I don't know them personally, I'm certain that there are people that lose their loved one and don't have anybody,
Yeah.
right? And they're kind of going through it by themselves. And so, Maya, I am grateful that we both, my sorority sister, my Leo sister, like all of the connections. I am so grateful that we have friends. I'm grateful that we have K-Fly, who has connected us both. And, we just got to give shout outs to our friends and to our crew, to our
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Mine's
For
a small
sure.
but mighty. That's what I call them. They small but mighty.
Listen, you don't need a lot, right?
You
That's
don't.
just not what it is. You just need is folks that are really going to be there. So what did Tylinda said, when all the chicken and cake is gone, they are there.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
And providing you with some more chicken and cake, right? Like,
Yes.
they giving you some more. So that is the key. So with that, and you alluded to it earlier, so I'd like to know, how do you keep your late husband's legacy alive? Like, you talked about your businesses and some things that you're working on. So how do you keep his legacy alive, even in the midst of grief?
So I always remember Sean had a saying, through it all, have a ball. And that's where his sense of humor comes from. That's definitely where our son gets his sense of humor from, because I see that every day. Like, and I'm so grateful to God that that's the piece of Sean that he got the most. And so I definitely try to laugh. It was times where I would be, because we were in our, like I said, we were in our sweet spot. We newlyweds, so our sex life was alive and well. And so I would be, he was gone. I would be like, and I would see a handsome man, and I would be like, I remember one particular time I saw a handsome man, and I was like, and I heard and the man glanced at me, and I felt like he looked at my finger and thought I was still wearing my ring. And I heard my husband's voice, as clear as he was sitting next to me, say, if you would have took off the ring, you probably could have got some action. And so I keep that his legacy alive by laughing. Like, if it's one
I love
thing,
that.
I don't care how mad or angry or irritated I was, he made me laugh. So I keep it. And when people would say to me, it's great to see you smile, even if I was faking it, sometimes you have to fake it so you make it.
Fake it, yeah.
I knew that was something that was expected of me from him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he was saying, my son. Well, my son told me, my husband, we were still planning a funeral, and my son told me, "Ma, you need to stop all that whining." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, all that, that's whining. And and the way he said it and the look on his face, like, my husband, that was Sean.
Oh,
and I was like,
wow.
and I had to tell him, I said, well, Manny, I'm really sad right now. Like, Daddy is gone, and I'm sad. I'm at a loss. And he was like, it'll be okay, but you probably should stop whining. Wow. And he was really serious.
So we have a question that came up, and I like to try to make sure that we're interacting with the people. And so this question comes up: do you both still have moments when you cry after all this time? So for somebody who may have just joined us, I want to make sure that people know Maya is a widow of 3.5 years at this point.
2.5 years.
Oh, 2.5 years. It'll be 3 in August.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I am a 7-year widow. Girl, Sheila, I cry
all the time,
like at random moments, right? I cry. I could be walking down the street. So true story. So one of the last places that Paul and I, two different things. Two of the last places that we ate at. One was Potbelly's, but it was a specific Potbelly's. It was up north. Whenever I go by that Potbelly's, I'm like, oh Lord, okay. Like I'm literally bracing myself, right? Because I'm just like, I know the flood of emotions because the last time I was at that particular Potbelly's was with Paul. And then Kilwins. Yesterday in Chicago, it was a beautiful day. So I went to Kilwins Ice Cream in Hyde Park. I've only gone there literally maybe two other times because the Saturday before Paul passed, it was a beautiful day out. Me, him, and Simone went to Kilwins. And so I had this flood of emotion. I didn't like bawl yesterday, but it was a couple tears that came down. But they're liable to come at any given time. So it does not matter. 7 years, 10 years. We have another person, Tylinda, who I interviewed as well. She said she did today, and it'll be
Yeah.
10 years on May 23rd.
Wow.
So, Maya, you still cry?
Oh girl, yes. I still cry. And I still laugh in between my crying because I'm like, I know somebody telling me to stop whining. But I cry. One of the things that I did, and I did it for close to 7-8 months. It's this cherry juice that Sean used to drink. And I hate this juice. It's the worst. It's so bitter. But he liked this juice, and I unconsciously would always buy this juice. And so every time I get home, I would cry because I didn't bought this juice. The first time I was in the store and I didn't buy the juice, I realized, don't buy this juice. You don't like this juice. This is a force of habit that you're doing because Sean liked this juice. I cried in the store because I remembered not to buy the juice.
Oh my goodness.
And it was, and I just was like, it was just the worst thing. And I'm like, why are you crying, girl? But I cry and I'm okay with it now. To me,
it's definitely okay.
Yeah.
You got to feel the emotion, like whatever it is, because it might, like you said, it's the crying and the laughter, and they can coexist at the same.
They do all the time for me. They do all the time.
I'm like, they can coexist at the same time. Okay, so let's. We will be here all night talking. So let me
go to the next one.
I'm like,
that's how we do. We just like,
I know, start talking. But keep the questions coming, keep the comments coming because that is helpful. Also, we appreciate that. We like to have that as well. So next question. What do you think is the biggest misconception about being a widow?
I really feel like it's so many, but two of the things that stick out to me is that we don't have a balance of being okay. Either we're so sad and we can't get over it, or we getting over it too fast. That's been my experience. Like there are times where I have down days, and I feel like it's one of those things. People don't think I'm okay most of the time. They feel like, oh, she must be always like that. And I'm like, no, that dude had on my husband cologne. Like, that's why I got emotional. I ain't always like this. I just know that scent. And it sparks something in me. Or that we're just, we're okay. Like, they assume that because I'm able to kind of, go about life and still have fun and still laugh, and that I've gotten over it. And I haven't gotten over it. I don't think it's something you get over. Like, I always miss him. I'm always reminded of him not being there. Everything that our son does that he's not able to see. So I think that we're not old. That's the first thing. We're not old. And we have good balance. We have, our good days, and we have our challenges.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, they can coexist, right? Like, it just goes back to the same thing, is that just because I talk about my husband doesn't mean I'm about to like fall out And, yes, I still wish he was here. And I be fussing at Paul because stuff break, or like something happened the other day, a couple weeks ago, or I guess at this point it's probably a couple months ago. Simone has wallpaper in her room. Girl, the wallpaper was coming down. Who was I fussing? Who was I fussing at? Paul Fitzgerald Davis. Why are you not here to fix this wallpaper so I don't have to worry about it?
I say that all the time. I be like, and I tell people, and people think I'm joking, but and it's funny, but it's very serious. I always loved my son, but I didn't start liking him until my husband, like, because that was his baby. Like, they did everything together. I was like, I love you, but I don't really like you. I felt like I didn't really even know him because he was always with my husband. Like, even the process. So when my husband passed, I thought I was gonna have to take my son through this like process. My husband had already taken him through it for his brother, and I knew nothing. And so he's like, yeah, daddy's in heaven with Peter, and maybe it's because he kind of maybe thought Peter couldn't be there by himself, and I was just like, what? Like, where was he teaching you this stuff?
Yeah.
And so I'm always kind of like, whenever I feel like I missed something in terms of my son, or I just don't quite understand, or I'm yelling at him too much, I get mad at Sean. I be like, see, this was your baby. Like, why didn't you tell me how to, work him? And I told my son, I said, I like you so much now. I didn't used to like you. And he was like, you love your baby. I said, I've always loved my baby, but I didn't used to like you, and I'm starting to like you now. It was
hilarious.
the weirdest thing. But go ahead.
Yeah, thinking about the misconception piece. So we have a comment. I want to prepare you before I post it, because, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the comments as they come through, and I wasn't expecting to hear this, but this is another misconception, that we could only be a widow once, right? And so Sheila says, I am a newly widow for the second time. Within 25 year apart from each other, I find myself crying, but I'm trying to be strong to move forward. And I have to be honest and say, I read an article not long after Paul passed, and it was from a 2-time widow. And I promise you, that is one of my biggest fears. And I know I cannot live in life that way. And so, Sheila, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for letting us know that, because I think there's power in that. Like, we don't know. Like, can you imagine? Right? Like, so Sheila, I don't want you to try to be strong. I want you to feel whatever you feel and whenever you're feeling it, because that's part of the problem and part of the challenge, is that we're always trying to be like superwoman, and we want to be strong and show ourselves like, oh, we can get through this. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
But and you know what, Sheila, your strong is moving forward. It's not an act. So if you cry, as long as you move forward, you still strong, baby. And it's I'm just looking at second time.
Yeah.
And unconsciously, I think I move a little different because of that fear. Like, I'm less likely to date people that don't, or in my opinion, look after that. And my husband was healthy. Like, he was a diabetic, but nobody thought he was gonna die. But again, that fear is there. But you just have to, perfect vulnerability, and oh my God, say no more.
Yeah.
Say no more.
Thank you for that, Tylinda. And Sheila says, thank you. So thank you, Tylinda.
Thank you for
Maya.
Sharing, Sheila. Thank you.
Because we just don't know. So that's just another misconception though, right? Like, we think everybody's walking around here. We're just like, oh, you're a widow once, but you'll marry again and it'll be all good. We don't know what's written for us. None of us.
We don't.
Like, we have no idea what's written for us. And so we just have to, Oh my God. Thank you, God, for the confirmation. Like, it's just, I was like, Lord, why am I doing this? Why am I doing these interviews? Why am I like, like, because it gets tiring, right? Like you want to do it, but then at the same time, you're like, I done had a long day of work. I done had this. And Sheila, for that moment, for all of you all that are watching, who are watching the replay, that'll share it, whatever, you all are the reason. Like, I want to share these stories of these amazing women. I've had plenty of conversations with Maya one on one and in groups. And the way that we've been able to pour into each other and just uplift each other during a difficult time is I wanted to be able to provide that to show widows, but to also help other people that have experienced some other kind of loss. So this is powerful, and we ain't even finished with the questions.
I told you like a pastor, girl. You need to rest. You feeding the spirit. I told you. I said, girl, I know you exhausted because you worked my spirit. I told you, remember that time? I was like, it's a calling, and you have been a blessing to me and so many other people. It's amazing. It's just amazing what you're doing. And people be like, well, Maya, can you talk to this widow? And I was like, tell them talk to Elle. That ain't my ministry.
You know what? Not tell them talk to Elle. I can't stand you.
But I got to a place where I do it because I see how you do it and I see how it helped me. And so
you are gifted. You are brilliant. Like, you have so much inspiration in what you have shared, and I've seen it firsthand.
But I ain't signed up for this club.
I didn't sign up for it either.
That's how I was thinking. I was like, I ain't signed up. No, talk to her. But like the way you move is like, it's encouraging to me, and I'll be like, okay, I'll talk to her. Yeah, we can talk. And I just do the same thing that what they say, the best form of flattery is imitation. I'll be like, okay, how would she handle this? How would Elle handle this? That's how I handle it.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Okay,
let's get. We got form of flattery.
Two more questions.
We'll get to them.
I'm like, what are my other two questions? Oh, okay. So this next one, and we kind of just did this though. We kind of talked a little bit with Sheila with saying that, but if there are some other words of wisdom that you have for a recent widow.
It won't always feel like that. It won't always feel like that first time. I can remember talking to Elle alone and in group, and I would never think that I would be able to share in an interview like this. I never thought that I would be able to do that, and to be able to do it, it just shows you just got to keep living, keep talking to your people that love you. It won't always feel like how it felt that first time. There will be moments where it does. I still feel like sometimes I walk into August 4th, 2018, and it's that sad, but not all the time. And it will get better. It will get better. You will live. Your heart will ache, but it won't ache always.
Yeah. So Maya, so Sheila has another question for us. And because you have two boys, and although your oldest, is not with Sean, I want to, she's talking about, let me show the comment, is that her youngest son, who is 20, I think she tells us later, I'm looking at the comments, is so mad at God for taking his dad, and she doesn't know how to bring him back to God other than prayer. And so, and someone else in the comments is just mentioning that they also have a son who is 9, who is also struggling from the loss. And so I just wanted you to talk a little bit, because you have boys. I have a daughter, but Simone was so young, and she was only 2. And so we've gotten past the point of her like having that frustration, because really for her it was just sadness. It was just, I want my daddy, right?
Right.
Like she couldn't really verbalize or have this conversation about what God did. But how have you been able to handle that with the boys?
So let me be honest and transparent. Sheila, I took the approach, like I thought, because even though, and that's why I'm very cautious to say we don't do stepsons, or I took the approach where because Emmanuel, who's my youngest boy, he is 6 now. I wanted to get him into counseling. He lost his brother, he lost his dad, and I didn't really see what was going on with Elijah, my oldest son at the time. And the reality of it is, when my son passed away, we buried him on what would have been his 17th birthday, and he passed away. My husband was actually at the hospital, and my oldest biological son was graduating 8th grade when my other son passed away. So I was at the graduation trying to keep it together, and my husband was at the hospital. And I didn't put Elijah into counseling right away, because I asked him. He was 13, 14 at the time, and he said, no, I'm cool, Mom, this and this. And hindsight being 2020, he was really struggling, and it manifested itself in not the most positive ways at times. But pray without ceasing, and so that definitely did it for him and me. But again, I was one of those people. I turned away from God for about 2 months, and because I was just angry. And that is a stage, but you keep on praying, you keep on going. Counseling again. I put me and my youngest son, I put Emmanuel and I in counseling, and I kind of let Elijah decide for himself, and it wasn't the best idea. I should have put Elijah in there, because him and Peter, my other son, they were closer in age. They were 3 years apart, and they were like this. They were, that was his brother too. Sean was his father too. So that was something, and in all transparency, I definitely neglected that, and it was a regret that I later had. But we got back on track. My oldest son is about to graduate high school. And he's learned how to. I put him in counseling maybe about 6 months later, and he's learning to cope. He's learning to cope. Oh yeah, that's us. He way bigger than that now.
I know, but I love this picture that you sent. This is great.
Yeah.
So this was the family unit intact, minus Peter though.
Minus Peter, but that was definitely the family unit. That was, yeah.
Awesome. I love that. All right. So I don't see any other comments before we move to the last question, because you already know.
My favorite question.
Because the people want to know. And by the people, I mean who?
What people?
L is the people.
What people is that?
L is the people. Before I ask the question, Sheila just asked real quick, when is it too late for counseling? It is never too late for counseling. Never.
We're still in counseling.
It's never too late for counseling. Because here's the thing. It's never too late for counseling. Tylinda says the same thing. It's never too late. It's never too late for counseling, because here's what I know. My daughter was 2. I saw 2 therapists. I saw a therapist for me, and I saw a therapist for her, because I felt like she was a little too young. But here's the thing. My daughter has lost her father. She has lost both of her grandfathers, my father as well as my husband's father, all by the time she was 7. My baby's going to need counseling. She's going to need it. She has been strong. She has gotten through, and we've had all kinds of other things that she's experienced. She's going to need counseling. So you can do counseling whenever. It's never too late. And if you need to stop and start over again, that's okay too. So I don't want you to think counseling is ever too late. So make sure I put that in there. But speaking of counseling is never too late, I don't think love is ever too late either. And so I'm just curious. The people just curious, and they just want to know what happens next in your love story, Maya MJ.
Well, I'm open to love. I actually had started dating someone. It did not work out. And that's
Don't
cool.
you hate that though? But
No, I don't.
you
I
like
don't.
no.
Let me say, I'm gonna tell you why I don't hate it, because I always in my mind thought that, like, I know I'll be married again, and I always said that it would be a relationship of convenience. Like, I can be loyal to him, I can love him, and we good together. But when I was in this relationship, I realized that I'm capable of a relationship where I'm in love. I'm capable of not the same type of love that Sean and I had, because he's not Sean, or the next
Exactly.
man won't be Sean. But I can feel that true happiness versus saying, well, it's not, it's good. Like, I can be actually happy. And I think that was my lesson learned from that particular relationship. And I was just like, hey, this must be it, because I wasn't pursuing. He pursued me. He gave me, he must have saw a young widow being fly, all this other stuff, like you said. But it didn't work out that way, and that's fine. I know that I can love someone fully, and still love Sean fully, because I really do.
Absolutely.
I really do.
Absolutely.
And I learned so much from him, and
Yeah.
I miss him, but I can't be happy again.
I love that. And that's what's most important, really. That is the most important thing. So,
Girl,
okay.
yes.
You see Tanisha's question, right?
Girl, yes. So I hadn't dated in like 7 years. Like, I was, and I was just like, oh, that's what you do now? Like,
Listen.
it's
So
scary.
listen. I don't know if you all saw the conversation with Lysandra Hutchinson and I, but we are actually going to be on Clubhouse. So for those of you that are on Clubhouse or familiar with Clubhouse, we're having a conversation about widow and dating on Clubhouse on Friday. So
okay, I'm gonna tune in. I ain't chiming in, but I'm gonna tune in.
Listen, we don't know what that conversation is going to be like, but here's the thing, Tanisha. How I want to say this. So what's funny is, if y'all go to the YouTube channel, if y'all go to my YouTube channel, I don't, this had to be like 2 years ago. And I literally put an episode out there, and I was like, widowed and dating. I think I called it Tinder Talks, the widow series or something like that. I was just like, oh my God. I was like, this is a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess, y'all. These cats out here, I don't
Wow.
know. I can't even, like, yeah, I don't even have any words. Like, dating as a widow, number one of the things that I heard, and please, ladies, chime in if you all have heard this. One man told me, he's just like, well, yeah, of course I'm going to be intimidated dating you as a widow. And I said, but why? And he's like, because, like, your husband, it's not like you ended your marriage because of divorce and because you wanted to. And I was like, but why is that intimidating to you? And he's like, any man that tells you that is not intimidating is lying. He was like, because basically he was saying that we think that you're comparing, like, that man is being compared to your late husband.
They're more, you have this everything about them is just great because they're not here. It's the memorial of it. Yeah, I've heard that one.
And I was just like, I mean, I get it. I do understand it, but I'm like, please don't walk into knowing me like that.
There's hope. Didn't I soror about to have a baby and married? There's hope. If God,
but wait,
he's not a respecter of persons. So if he did it for her,
did you
he'll do it
listen
for
to
me.
that story? He was the man that was sending her cards on her husband's birthday.
Yes. And talking to her about ways that she wanted to celebrate and honor him. And so there are dudes out there like that. So we know it.
It's crazy.
And she also
Tanisha said, okay, sorry. I've actually enjoyed dating, met some really cool people, but have different expectations. It's different though. Well, so okay, that's good though. That's a good perspective that you out here. I just COVID messed me up because I'm really an in person. Like I've gotten on the apps and I'll like swipe, but I'm such an in person that COVID has just jacked me up because I'm just like, I just want to see you out and about. I want to see how fine you are and be like, hey, and flirt. And you can't really flirt through the words don't give the same energy that your eyes and the
We're
smile
not doing this.
exactly. But because I will put a smile on you, I will shine the pearly whites and bat the eye and be like,
you know me, I keep. But yeah, it's different, but I'm open to it, and God will give me exactly what I need.
that I love to hear that, and I am so glad to hear that you are open, and I'm glad to see that the ladies on here are also dating. So yes, 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 yes. Just because you are a widow does not mean you will not marry again. It does not mean that you will not find love again. It doesn't mean any of those things. So be open to what is for you. And I think that is what's most important. And look at Kelly talking about, yep. Yep.
That's our girl. Yep.
Our girl. Co-signing. Yep. So Maya, before we close out with this almost double time conversation that we done had.
I was the last one, so hey. We had to make it good for the people.
I know it had to be good for the people. Is there anything else that you would just like to share with a widow watching, or just anything else that's on your heart?
I want to reiterate how much I really appreciate you. And I want to let folks know that this is definitely a love project. The love that she shared with me makes it easier for me to talk to widows. And we are fierce. We already fierce. We cry, we move on, we live. And that's all that can be. That's all we can do is live. And like I said, Sean used to say it all the time. Life goes on. Keep living and enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. We love you too, K Fly. And thank you, Maya. This has been such a joy. We already knew that though. Like we knew that it was going to be a good time. I know, but we knew it was going to be a good time. This was a great way to end it because, it is cool. I only interviewed people that I knew. Actually, with the exception last week, I did not know Dina as well as some of the other women, but it's just I just wanted to bring light. That's what it's all about, like bringing light to our stories, to how we have navigated this loss. And Sheila, I really hope that you found some nuggets on this evening. And I really hope if you need support in trying to find a therapist, let me know. Please send me a message and I'll be sure to connect you with some of the resources that I have, and we can share resources. So please make sure you do that. And Maya, thank you. I appreciate you. Stand by. Don't go anywhere as I close out. I love you too. And hold on. I'll be right back with you. But thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I truly appreciate each and every one of you that have shared this. Please continue to share them. Make sure you just send people to the YouTube channel. I don't have it off the top of my head, but if you search my name, Elle Davis, you'll be able to find it. And so the Widow series is done. A conversation series, Widows Unveiled, is complete. However, next month in May, I have something else coming up my sleeve. And so I'm hoping that the days will be Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So don't quote me on that yet, but I think the days that I'll be coming live to you are on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But I hope to be able to share some of the marketing materials early next week. And next month, we are talking to some of my mama friends. That is who we will be talking to next month. Throughout Mother's Day, we will be talking to the women in my life that are moms, that primarily a lot of them have children around the same age as I do, but we want to talk about, how they are being resilient and what motherhood has been like in this pandemic, and just what navigating motherhood has been like in general. So I hope that you tune in. I hope that you share it. Thank you all for commenting tonight. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for just participating, because this has been wonderful. And thank you for all of the love and support that you have shown. Please make sure you share this, and I will see you all later. Have a good night.